A historic day for British triathlon as the Volvo World Triathlon Para Series in Swansea becomes the first ever standalone World Triathlon Para Series event to take place here in Great Britain. There are perhaps some lingering hangovers from the Commonwealth Games for a number of the athletes today, but here on the Welsh South Coast there is a chance to either build on the legacy they've created or bounce back from the frustration of the Games, while those that didn't have the chance to compete in Birmingham have the opportunity to put on the show as the Para Series takes centre stage in sunny Swansea. But we are underway then here in Swansea.
Yeah, so one medal for all of the visually impaired athletes, but though it must feel like a long 2 minutes and 46 seconds waiting and watching to chase them down.
On your mark.
And they are off and underway, and the game of cat and mouse begins then. With the PT VI2 and 3 athletes in the water and off on their charge.
At the Commonwealth Games, Dave Ellis had actually passed someone in the water, so he caught up that 2 minutes 46 straight away. So, I mean, the Commonwealth Games, there is a big variation in ability. We have, more emerging nations there. So, but yeah, there is the potential that he can catch people in the swim. See them there giving each other quite a bit of space at the start, which is the luxury you have. They've only got the 4 athletes there in the water, so they've got a bit more room. They're able to get into their swimming really quick. They're not going to be affected by any of the other athletes. You saw in the men, they're a lot more tightly packed, so the start is a little bit tougher for them.
So we are all underway then for the visually impaired athletes, as all of the swim starts are underway, and now we just have to have the patient wait to see who will be first out of the water. We will do our best to bring you all of the times, and of course then going through transition as well, always a pivotal part and always a big element of who can rise towards the top of the leaderboard if you can nail those transitions correctly. And again, the combination of work between athlete and guide is imperative in those moments.
Yeah, and the guide is able to help them in transition if there's something they can't do. I mean, most of the athletes are able to do everything possible in transition, so but the guide is there, especially for taking off the wetsuit and things like that, to make it go a little bit quicker.
As we can see, the first group of the visually impaired athlete men's event have taken the big corner up by the buoy and are on their way back, coming back towards the mainland.
And the first group of VI1 look like they're pretty close together, and there's definitely a pack forming back there. There is no drafting on the bike, so when the athletes get out onto the bike, they aren't allowed to use the other athletes around them for an advantage.
As we see the first athletes then coming out of the water, and once more you get a real good sight now of Ellis and Pollard, who have made a massive push to try and close that gap. They're not going to jump onto the front 3 just yet, but you said they were impressive in the Commonwealth Games with being able to take some of the athletes in the water, and Ellis has done his best to do that once again here in Swansea.
Yeah, they've opened up a big gap on the other PT VI2 and 3s as well.
And now we get into transition, get a real close-up view of Kyle Kuhn and his guide Zach Goodman, and the support that Goodman is allowed to provide his athlete.
Yeah, see Kyle Kuhn coming off a first in Montreal and a first in Yokohama.
Very accomplished skier and rock climber as well is the American.
I'm ready.
He will take his position on the tandem bike as the rest of the men's field starts to come out of the water and move in towards transition. I suppose as well, when you're working as a tandem like this, it's important for both athlete and guide to just take an intake of breath and try and work in symmetry and have the same repetition of movements that you see and that they've done in training.
Yeah, and I think being calm is one of the biggest things. Both of you calm under pressure, or allowing the other athlete, or actually calming down the other athlete if one of them's getting a bit worked up. Because things can go wrong, can't they, at different points? So it's trying to be as relaxed as possible.
And we get out on the cameras on the motorbike and start following the men around the twists and turns of this bike course as they make their way out towards the circuit that will make up the 4 laps that will run for about the Swansea Museum. They'll head up towards the water, close to where transition is, but never crossing the River Tower, and then going all the way back down towards the beachfront. 4 laps of that, and then back into transition once again. Certainly going to be a scenic route for the athletes, although they're not going to be too fussed about their surroundings. They just want to crack on with either maintaining a lead or closing in on the leaders. I was going to say Tumala is already out and on the road. I said they were just coming around the corner. Kurzilat and Tumala, the French woman and the Canadian, already through transition and starting to go out onto the bikes. But there is a chasing pack on their heels as the B1 athletes set out to get ready and tackle the bike course.
Fantastic swimmer herself. So is it going to be?
Yeah, these are the chasers then. Got my. It's so hard with the short time gaps in between to figure out where exactly all the athletes are. But great swims there from the first athletes out the water.
But the chasing pack are hot on their heels as well. You can see there Katie Crowhurst making her way out of the water along with her guide Grace Hawthorne. She moves into transition and she will be hoping that it is as smooth and as prepared a routine as possible. Well, we can see a bike split 3. Dave Ellis and his guide have put themselves up into pole position. Antoine Perel.
Yeah, so it's closed down that gap really quickly. Now 6 seconds ahead of Perel.
You can just see in the background there, Perel, the Frenchman. But the way that Ellis has motored through not only the swim, but now has closed up that ground on the leader and already putting a bit of distance between he and the Frenchman.
I think that's Oscar Kelly and Charlie Harding there. So working really well. They've actually gained. They've lost time on Dave Ellis, which you'd probably expect being quite young athletes. They're quite new to this. Oscar's only 21. So they're gaining time on some of the other, definitely more experienced athletes in front of them. And today, I think they'll just be happy if they don't get any punctures out there on the course today. And they're able to show what they can do, because they just didn't get to do that at the Commonwealth Games.
Ellis still large and in charge at the moment with, again, a gap of around about a minute or so on Rigaudot.
Yeah, a little look back there from Pollard, but they're not going to see anyone within their race close to them.
They might see them coming back down the road when they go through, but right now it is looking smooth sailing, to say the least, for Ellis. Again, it's a 50-second gap between them. Man in second place, Rigaudot.
They're heading back now towards transition, so really quick bike there from them.
Yeah, they've just gone through the 8 split on the bike and now making their way back down the in and out section, back down towards transition as we take a look at the leading women, and Jessica Tuamela, the Canadian, still out in front. She'll be very happy with that margin of around about 90 seconds or so to start a run. We've gone back once more to Dave Ellis leading the men out on the run.
Yeah, he's got about a just over 30-second lead on Rigaudot coming from behind. So, yeah, it's not huge gaps at this stage. And Rigaudot's only been competing since 2019, so not off with COVID in that time. So he's not had a chance to get a huge amount of races in. There's Kelly heading out. We've got Cravens just behind. So 2 of the young athletes here. Very close battle between these 2.
Looks like we see the Canadian woman of Jessica Tuamela coming through the in-out section of the bike and coming back towards transition. She's gone through that last split with about almost a 2-minute lead on Anu Kuzila.
I have to be off before that dismount line, or there's a penalty, but they're off just in front of it.
Nailed to perfection. And there's only now the 3 laps, the 5-kilometre run to go.
Just passing the Irish pair.
They're getting through these back markers very quickly indeed, nice and smoothly, of course, as You mentioned that this part of the circuit, it's certainly wide enough in. There's no chance for any sort of problems. You don't want to face many of the back markers when you get into that tight railing section with the twists and turns, but
yeah, so it's just choosing a good passing section.
as we see more of the women coming through transition, that is Katie Crowhurst, the Commonwealth Games champion, going into the transition area and just starting to get the shoes on and ready for the run. She's still a fair way back on second place, Anu Kuzilat. Well, here we see Jessica Tuamela, the Canadian, out in charge. A gap at the start of the run between her and the French woman in second place, 2.5 minutes.
Oh, that's a big gap, isn't it?
There's only a few more meters to go. It's been quite the week for the British athlete who continues to set the standard in para triathlon. It is Dave Ellis, the victor in Swansea. Untouched, unbeaten and unmatched here on the Welsh South Coast. An unbelievable achievement from him. The second place men coming through, Thibaut Rigaudot, who tried to stay in contention as much as he could, but he was dropped by Dave Ellis very quickly. But Rigaudot will take second place with a time inside the hour, 59 minutes and 19 seconds. The first of the B1 athletes to come through, Antoine Perel, will take the bronze here in Swansea. Yeah, Oscar Kelly just having the jump slightly on Carl Kuhn at the run split 3 of about 13 seconds. So you can see the American in 5th place. Oscar Kelly able to find a 4th place finish as the British fans enjoy Kelly crossing the line. And that is the overtake for the lead. Kuzilat has taken Tuamela. That gap at the run split was down to 10 seconds. The French woman has put on a real performance on the run, as perhaps Tuamela is just struggling. Anu Kuzilat on the final charge.
And looking through the French team, they've all been training together. They've just had a really big training camp recently, so there'll be a lot of team spirit and camaraderie between all of them. So yeah, a great day for them, great way for them to start this Swansea World Series.
It's going to be a fantastic start for them. The men picking up silver and bronze, and then a gold is just a few seconds away for Anu Kuzilat as she pushes towards the finish as well. You can see a beaming smile both on her face and Julie Morano, and they are through to take the gold medal in Swansea. A Herculean push right at the end, but not even the strain of that sprint finish for themselves is going to wipe the smile off their faces. And there you see it's going to be potentially a big finish, because Crowhurst and Tuamela are on the final push, and Crowhurst has got the hammer down. And she is pushing for a grandstand finish and a silver medal, and it looks like she's got energy to burn as the Canadian is slightly limping there. This is going to be a huge finish for Crowhurst. Even a few seconds ago, we didn't think this was going to be possible, but Katie Crowhurst, after the gold at the Commonwealth Games, will take silver in Swansea right at the last moment. An incredible run and a superb finish as well. She's left it all on the track, as has Jessica Tuamela. As we take a look at the visually impaired men's results, Dave Ellis, of course, getting another gold to match the one he got a week ago at the Commonwealth Games. Rigaudot tried to push but could never get close enough. About 90 seconds back. Antoine Perel wrapping up the podium positions with 2nd and 3rd for the French team. Oscar Kelly bouncing back from the frustration of the puncture at the Commonwealth Games to finish 4th today. Carl Kuhn wrapping up the top 5, the American.
Yeah, it was tough to come back a week after, and yeah, the body's feeling a little bit tired, but yeah, I think a home event, you've got to get up for it, and I think we managed to do that today.
Yeah, like Dave said, it's been a tough week, but it's sort of been riding on the roller coaster of the high of the commies, and then looking forward to this. It's a big target race for us this year, and really glad it paid off.
Result list for the women. Anu Kuzilat with a wonderful victory. Katie Crowhurst with the frantic finish to take 2nd just at the last few meters from Jessica Tuamela, who just struggled on that run. It was out in front after the swim and the bike, but couldn't hold on to it. And then Helen Courvoisier coming in fourth, Tarantello, the Italian, in fifth, Chloe McComb sixth, and Lindsay Engelbrecht in seventh.
I'm very happy. The win is very important because it's the first in my career in the World Para Series. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, it's a very good race, a technical race, a lot of segments. So for the guide, we need to speak a lot at the athletes for do everything for the athletes. Yeah.
I think a lot of the focus for the wheelchair athletes in the men's category is on the Austrian Brungraber and the Italian Acienza renewing their rivalry from Tokyo.
Yeah, and I think the big, we haven't got Jets Platz and the other Netherlands athlete, Gert Schipper, so they're the two big names. You know, they're the ones that we're missing. Jets Platz has defended his Paralympic champion, so it does leave this field a lot more wide open than we see when Platz is in the race.
We said that there were some absentees from Tokyo in the start list for a number of the events today, but it does open up the opportunity for plenty of medalists.
On your mark.
Nervous moments for the athletes as they hear that heartbeat music. You know it's about time to go, and then they start off on their pursuit of that bringing down that 3-minute gap as quickly as possible.
And we saw that in the visually impaired event there was a bit of space and some gaps, of course, in the water. Is this going to be a little more clustered as they go around the boys with people fighting for the advantage on the inside, do you think?
You would think so, but they've all gone quite different directions here and quite wide. But you see two of the athletes there, they're trying to get onto the feet of the athlete in front to really try and save as much energy as possible. See, Parker there decided to go non-wetsuit. It was an interesting choice. Must be feeling confident in her swim speed to make that decision. It is slightly faster having the wetsuit on.
Does it speed up, though, going through transition? You can gain those seconds back?
Yeah, it is faster. I mean, I'm not sure if you gain back all of the time on transition, but it's probably been weighed up with herself, her coach, her coaching team, and deciding what's going to work best for her.
On your mark.
That beating of the drum almost sounds like something from the Hunger Games. Well, Kendall Gretsch is going to be hungry to chase down the leaders straight away as she gets out on the swim. We see the leading men, or the leading man, should I say, coming through then to have a look at getting out into transition. I think it's Giuseppe Romele, the Italian, who's had a wonderful start and put some distance between himself and everybody else as he comes through to finish the swim very quickly. We can just see in the top of the screen for a moment there that the chasing pack are coming around the last buoy.
The handlers here getting in place, ready to help through the transition zones.
So they make their way down to the hand bikes. So two Italians leading off out of the water. Team Italy will be very pleased to see that.
Yeah, strong start from the Italians.
I think that's the Frenchman, Ahmed Andalusi, who is making his way out of the water and starting to move up towards the transition zone. The athletes being supported by the handlers. Romele giving the hand into the hand bike. Brett Crossley going through transition there.
Brett Crossley hasn't raced much since the whole COVID period. This is he's done the British Champs last year, but that's all he's done since COVID. So this is the first big international race back for him. I bet there's a big buzz being back in front of the crowd.
I think that is the first of the women coming out of the water is going to be Lauren Parker. We've got some of the times coming up for the men's through the transition and onto the bike start. Giovanni Acienza leads it, followed by Romele Andalusi. So it's the three that we thought we could see, but Florian Brungraber, the Austrian, is on their heels in terms of the timing as the Australian Lauren Parker comes out of the water, the leading lady in 101. The men out on the bike and through the first bike split, Atienza, followed by the Frenchman Ahmed Andalusi, who was overtaken Giuseppe Romele after his superb swim. Andalusi has caught the Italian and usurped him into second place and already got about 20 seconds or so. Well, that is the nice thing about this course, is that the athletes can see where their rivals are coming through. Lauren Parker actually is just on the left-hand side of the screen behind our other bike out on course, as the two leaders of each race are out there in front, almost pace for pace at the moment on the course, although Atienza going past her to lap her at the moment out there on the field.
Yeah, Lauren Parker through bike split 2, but no other athlete is through that split yet, so we're not sure how far ahead she is.
She's just making it look very smooth and easy, the arms just rotating round, pushing herself through this bike course. Looks like she's got a nice rhythm. I mean, that's one of the nice things, I suppose, about a flat course as well. On the bikes, you can just get into a rhythm and a pace, and you can judge it quite easily, as opposed to having to build up again when you've gone up a hill, or perhaps slow it down and not overexert yourself when you've come off the bottom of a hill. Taking it very tight, the Austrian.
Yeah, he had to take it tight, so Atienza got the better line there. He was able to take that corner a bit faster. Brungraber got stuck on the inside, so he's now he had to slow a bit there, but he's got his momentum back and is going to try and make the pass now.
Oh, he's absolutely decimating him as he goes through. You can just see the additional power that Brungraber's got here. Atienza is quickly into his wake and perhaps into the dust too. The Austrian going through. Parker through split 6 already. Through split 5 only just goes the Brazilian Jessica Ferreira, who's having an excellent bike herself. Mona Francis going through split 5 now, about 10-15 seconds off the second place athlete Ferreira. Kendall Gretsch, we still wait to go through split 5, but she's a split back on this Australian, who is making light work indeed of the bike here in Swansea. He also seems to have already got himself a fairly sizable lead over the Italian, who was just starting to make his way out onto the run here.
Almost a minute, and I think they were 15 seconds at the last split, so really accelerated over that last portion of the bike. Really must have taken that technical section really well, and because both their transitions look very smooth at a similar pace, similar time. So Brungraber really has had a great start to this run section.
Having to do the pause and then into transition and pushing out onto the run goes Lauren.
It's never great if you're lapped by the leader, but also if you're being lapped by one of the best in the world, I think it's not the worst thing, especially over a 3-lap course. So there's you've got to look at where the athletes are at the different developments, how many races they've done. So a lot of these times it's just for a lot of the athletes who are out here, they've not had many start, they've only maybe done their national champs, and now they're here racing. This is an incredible experience, like just to see these athletes they admire and respect up close, see how they operate. You learn from them at every race.
Once more we see Parker. Here's the man in third at the moment, Ahmed Andalusi, taking that tight hairpin in the technical part of the course. And there you can see just behind him Louis Noel coming through to take the second run split himself. Atienza through that second run split 57.35, Andalusi 59.07, oozing confidence as he motors his way through the streets of Swansea. Starting to push his way towards that finish line. Dominant performance from Brungraber, who not only caught the competition but made mincemeat of them. It's a wonderful victory for the Austrian, who's put the power down and looked unstoppable. Gold for Brungraber. So we're back with our leading lady Lauren Parker out on the run. Gold, as you say, on the helmet, gold on the bike, gold on the racing chair. Is it gold coming her way? Through run split 1 already. Kendall Gretsch, though, has caught and usurped Jessica Ferreira to take second from the start of this run. As we see Giovanni Akenza coming through then to take second in the men's event.
A two-time Paralympic Games bronze medalist.
Fair way behind Florian Brungraber,
Akenza.
but taking the silver today, as we see Ahmed Andalusi, I believe it is, coming through to finish third.
And it should be Ahmed Andalusi.
I think the gap is almost 5 minutes at this point, so yeah, it would be a really big ask. I mean, Gretsch has the ability to probably pull a bit of that back, but I think Parker's improved again since Tokyo last year.
Well, it's a statement, to say the least, to come out decked all in gold. Of course, the Australian will know that the attire for Australia is green and gold, and she has adopted the secondary colour in quite a spectacular fashion for this event.
Yeah, I just checked it. Like the last race in Montreal, she won by just like over 5 minutes as well. So it's another dominant performance here for Lauren Parker.
Absolutely untouchable. The Australian woman, she is just able to cruise towards the finish line. Lauren Parker, absolutely magnificent. She took on some of the men on the bike. She ruled the roost in the women's course. As we see the finishers coming through for the second place, that's Kendall Gretsch, just the 1:06 coming down the home straight to take silver behind Lauren Parker. So the American on the left of your screen then making her way across the finish line. Well, let's take a look at the classification then of the men's wheelchair event. Florian Brungraber taking it by almost 4 minutes ahead of Giovanni Akenza, the Italian, with Ahmed Andalusi coming in about 5 minutes behind the leader. Another bronze, though, for the French contingent. Louis Noel perhaps just missing out on the podium. Howie Sanborn, the American, in 5th. Brett Crossley in 6th. Joshua Landman in 7th. And Giuseppe Romele, who was so strong out of the swim, finishing 8th.
Yeah, for sure the race goes quite well, or good, because I crossed the finish line at first, so it's always nice, and for sure it's nicer if it's serious rennen.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to take another win here in Swansea. Had a really good start. I felt really good in the swim. My aim was just to get as much lead as I could, and heading out onto the bike. Good transition. It was quite fast, and I felt really good at the start of the bike. And the bike is my strongest leg, so I really wanted to push that as hard as I could and make the most of the technical course. I love a technical course, and I made the most of the U-turns and the cornering and stuff like that. So that's where I make the time up. So I'm really happy with how that panned out. And onto the run, I needed as much lead as I could out on, before, getting onto the run, with my run being my weakest leg. But it's a very technical run course as well. So I really had to get around it as safe as possible, but as quick as possible. So I'm really happy to take the win I won by 5 minutes, so I'm really happy.
There's plenty more action to come then as the women's PTS5 category gets set to get underway. 4 athletes, high expectations from all of them, and the swim start is underway. And I suppose Claire Cashmore is the one to keep an eye on with this swim, a very impressive swimmer indeed in her pass. And the women are underway.
The PTS4 has an age range of 17 to 57 in the field today.
I wonder if there were a couple that just jumped a little bit early. Some went on your mark.
Yeah, that was. I thought I wasn't sure if that was going to be a full start then, but some of the athletes definitely were a little bit behind there.
The men are off in the PTS4 category then. They make their way out on the start of this swim course. Just a reminder, a 750 metre one-lap swim here in the bay in Swansea before they will go out onto the bike. 4 laps making up the 19 kilometres, plus the in and out section towards the 4 laps of the bike, and then the 5-kilometre run at the end as well. I thought for a second we might have missed the women coming out of the water, but they are there.
Different tactics here. Grace Norman taking her wetsuit off down the bottom here, putting her prosthesis on, whereas Claire Cashmore has headed straight up. She's going to take her wetsuit off at the bike.
So Cashmore first out of the water, but Norman was hot on her heels as they move over towards the bike transition zone. And then Gladys Lemusu and Christina Miranda Zambrano still in the water. Cashmore now getting out of the wetsuit and getting ready for the bike. You can see that she's worked hard already on that swim, panting already. Shades on, helmet on, and out onto the bike Cashmore goes. As we go to the start then, we have the PTS2 start list just running across the bottom of your screen there, but the PTS3 start list for the men as well, all kicking off at the same time.
Yeah, PTS2s and PTS3s all going here. So these are both going to be in the Paralympics for the first time in 2024. So they haven't had this category yet in the Paralympics. So big, it's big for these athletes. It's going to be their first chance next year to start qualifying and trying to get to the Paralympics. It
is only the women's PTS3 that isn't going to be involved in the Paralympics, isn't it, out of all the categories going into Paris?
We just saw George Peasgood coming out there with another athlete. So those two have got away from the rest of the field so far.
Get back out then with the leading ladies, and Claire Cashmore out in front in the women's PTS5 category.
Cashmore and Norman were very close coming out of the swim. Norman was just a couple of seconds leaving transition.
Yeah, they were identical coming out of the swim, 10:52 and 10:52, Cashmore and Norman. So we'll get an update hopefully on the timing charts with the bike in a few moments' time. In fact, at bike split 1, they've just gone through. Cashmore 17:57, 18:04. Grace Norman, the two leading ladies in this event. And she can look over her shoulder, Cashmore, and see Norman. And Norman has a sighter of something to chase.
Yeah, she has something to chase, or something to, if she's confident in a run at the moment, maybe just I'm just going to stay here and wait for the run. But the way we've seen all the athletes race today, it just doesn't happen. It's just everyone goes as hard as they can. Yeah, good start for Peasgood. There he is. Now, he's a world time trial champion. So you think he's got to be, this is going to be a set. He's going to try and maximise this, extend his position, try and get as much time as possible before the run. So he's going to enjoy these longer straight sections. That's really going to suit. But George is someone who regularly practices all his cornering, his technical things. He's as good as he wants to be, as good as he can be on the bike.
I was going to say, he could be just an elite road bike athlete, couldn't he? If he wanted to, not that you would want to, he could drop the other two disciplines in triathlon and focus on that. But he is elite, to say the least. Alexis Oncancon coming out of the water and getting his way out and on the push in the men's PTS4 category. Closely followed in hot pursuit then by Michael Taylor, who makes his way out of the water and removes the wetsuit by the water. Just needs to keep it neat and tidy now. There's Claire Cashmore.
Yeah, and you saw then there's a lot of athletes on the course, so you really have to just keep her head about it. All the athletes have to be super aware, pretty vocal as well about when they're passing athletes, shouting if you're coming up on their left or their right, really trying to let them know so there's no accidents out there on course. And that's Peasgood's in, yeah.
First off the bike in the PTS5 men's event, into transition. Quick check, almost put it in the Brazilian's box of Ronan Cordeiro's little station there.
Oh, really quick. Really quick there from George.
Textbook stuff in transition. It's Claire Cashmore then comes through. Not fancying a glance behind her, just to have a look at the finish line.
No,
Round into transition.
You don't want to be thinking about that till you're actually on that last stretch of blue carpet, and that's, you won't see the athletes relax or smile till they hit that section. Although maybe here, if she's got some home crowd support, she might do a little bit of celebrating before the line, but...
Well, it doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment. She makes her way through transition, bike locked in, helmet off. Slightly slow with the left shoe. Could hear her saying the shoe's not going on, but it's on now. And she is a lone horse out there at the front.
And
there's not another female athlete in sight as we see Stefan Daniel, who was second finishing the bikes, just gone through transition. He'll be hot on the heels of George Peasgood. Felipe Marquez is third, the Portuguese athlete. And hot on the heels of the Canadian. A good solid bike that from Daniel. But now how much time can Peasgood put between him and the Canadian? 39.30, he began the run. Daniel, 40.48. Just over a minute. The Brit has the advantage. He'll have the home support as well. Whether he can put it together on the run, 5 kilometers separate him and a gold medal. Just confirmation, 100% that Grace Norman is out of the race with a mechanical issue. He pulled into a wheel stop, but they couldn't fix anything, unfortunately, for the American. So she is no longer competing in the PTS5 women's event. So the field of 4 is down to 3. And Cashmore out in front, leading them at the moment. And nobody else has even started the run yet out of the remaining 2 athletes.
you can see Peasgood's breathing hard there. Trying to stay relaxed. Upper body still nice and relaxed.
But you can see Stefan Daniel.
Yeah. Oh, he's close.
Stefan Daniel, excuse me, is just lingering in the background. And the attack is on from the Canadian. It's not just close. He's almost, Peasgood, able to take some of the draft off Daniel as he closes in on him. Don't think there's going to be any hanging around either from the Canadian. I think he's just going to blow straight past him.
I think so. He may put in a bit of a surge just to make sure there's a gap. Yeah, and he's gone wide here to try and avoid sort of Peasgood jumping straight onto the back of him behind. So that's what Peasgood's going to do. But because Daniel went wide and has really almost put in a bit of a surge, Peasgood hasn't got any answer to it.
Just keeping that momentum, taking the outside of the corner, and the Canadian takes the lead then. You can see how Peasgood just doesn't look like he's got that same power in his strides as the Canadian. Oh, that's a bit of a wrong move, just caught on the pavement, which is going to slow down the Canadian's rhythm.
Yeah, he just went the wrong side of the barrier there. And we see here the leaders, the women's leader of the PTS4, Migueles from Spain. So the young athlete here really taking it out.
She looks like she's got a very healthy lead as well. Well, she did going into the run. We'll wait to see where Elke van Engelen, the German athlete who started the run in second, is compared to her. Look at Stefan Daniel there. He is loving his moment once again. A victor in Montreal in 2022. Now a victor in Swansea. Fist pumps all round. And he is very, very pleased with his hard day's work on the Welsh coast today to take gold in the men's PTS5 category. That looked like it was a real emotional finish for him. Barely a smile as he pushed through. Claire Cashmore just going through the technical section here on the run, through the last split already. Almost looks like a replay of what we saw a lap ago. She's staying on the back of the French athlete who's in second at the moment in her category. Cashmore still a lap almost ahead of everybody else in the women's PTS5.
See there, Taylor, so he's in the PTS4 category. I think he's currently in 4th position.
An impressive finish for Michael Taylor. As we see George Peasgood coming through.
Silver medalist, world Para Cycling Time Trial
A
champion.
silver in Swansea for George Peasgood. Couldn't quite do enough on the bike to leave the Canadian behind, and a hard push on the run, but he'll be pleased at least to take the second step of the podium.
Fine performances.
Almost a minute and a half behind Stefan Daniel. Felipe Marquez, the Portuguese athlete, couldn't be tested by David Bryant behind him. Felipe Marquez gets the bronze medal. Well, she hasn't needed to push herself hard enough to grimace once the unfortunate mechanical problem for Grace Norman put paid to her perhaps closest rival in this women's PTS5 category. Claire Cashmore will just enjoy this as she makes her way down the home straight. Ronan Condero just in front of her, the Brazilian, to finish 5th in the men's PTS5 category. But Claire Cashmore is just a few meters away, so close to some of the male athletes that they have to scramble across to pick up the finishing line tape. But a GB flag held in her hand. Claire Cashmore crosses the line to take gold in Swansea. I think she wants to walk off with the finishing line tape as well. Here is the runner-up in the women's PTS5 category. Gladys Lemousseau, the French athlete, crosses the line. A silver medal for France, who've got a tidy medal haul after today in Swansea. Their triathlon pedigree continues to rise and be on show at so many events in 2022. Here's the results of the PTS5 men's results. Stefan Daniel pipping George Peasgood on the run to first place. The Canadian adding to the gold in Montreal. Peasgood finishing 2nd in the end. Felipe Marquez finishing 3rd. David Bryant wasn't able to push hard enough in the end to get a medal position, but finishes in the top 5. And Ronan Cordero wrapping up the top 5. The Brazilian, who had high expectations and couldn't find himself inside the medal positions as well.
Yeah, no, that was tough. I just kind of wanted to see today where I was relative to some of my competition, and just Worlds is a long way away, so just kind of gauge and see where I'm at, and really happy. That was as good of a swim as I've had in a very, very long time. I wasn't too far behind the leaders. Bike was tough. I think everyone had a tough day on the bike, just trying to get into a groove, so I think I just tried to stay as relaxed as possible and focus on what I was doing versus what other guys were doing, and then get into a rhythm on the run. It's been a while since I felt pretty good on the run, and I'm happy it's coming back at the right time.
The PTS5 women, Claire Cashmore, a convincing victor in the end ahead of Gladys Lemousseau, the French woman picking up a silver for Team France. Cristina Miranda Zambrano finishing 3rd. The Spanish woman, unfortunately, we were denied the battle between Claire Cashmore and Grace Norman after the Americans suffered a mechanical fault on the bike, having to pull to the side of the road. Even Cashmore herself said she was frustrated not being able to compete against Norman today.
Super special to take the win here. Obviously, it is bittersweet. Grace out there. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what happened, but mechanical, and it was quite sad to see go past her and know she wasn't going to be able to finish the race. So, but yeah, amazing to have all my friends and family out in the crowd and see them on the finishing line, especially as I didn't get it in Tokyo. It was quite emotional, really. It was really special.
Men's PTS4 leader comes through. The Frenchman. It's a superb victory. Alexis Oncancon through the finishing tape and through to take another gold. We said he was the man to beat in this category today. It's now 34 starts, 29 wins, 31 podiums for the Frenchman. It's an incredible record in this event.
Our 2nd place finisher, yeah.
And it is Pierre-Antoine Bayle going through to take 2nd place in the PTS4 category. And the American trying to hold on, and Peacock looks like he's just given up, doesn't quite have it. McElveny able to hold on and get bronze then, and he's used every last ounce of energy that he had, as did Jeremy Peacock. Nothing really to separate those two. 3 seconds splitting them officially. Herculean effort from both of them.
What a finish from McElveny. He just collapsed over that finish line. He gave that everything, but what a finish. He managed to hold off Peacock right to the end.
As the Spaniard She takes some high fives on her way through, beaming bright, and what a bright star she looks like she's gonna be on the triathlon stage. An absolutely awesome victory for Andrea Migueles, taking it in 1 hour 14 minutes and 7 seconds. And they're just about quick enough in Swansea as the Dutchman takes the gold in the men's PTS3 category. Nico van der Burgt doing the business on the south coast of Wales.
The water was very good and a little windy, the water parcours was very nice, and the transition was also from swim to the transition was a little walk. And then on the bike was a nice parcours, and my muscles feel a little windy when it was a little up, and I feel good power in my legs, and then the run, and yes, I feel much stronger, and I think yes, the last round, and that's the finish, and I want to go.
Because none of her other competitors have gone through the run split just yet, and Dan's has got a race on to try and make sure that she takes this instead of the silver medalist in the PTS4 category. Dan's is going to take it and be given, though, the finishing tape by the German. Dan's takes the gold in Swansea. Daniel Molina's just taken second in the PTS3 category as Herbert takes the bronze. Molina with the silver medal then.
We have a little bit of a hiatus before our World Championships in Abu Dhabi in November. And so I'm going to have a little bit of fun these next couple months, do some fun races locally, and just continue the training build towards Worlds.
We have another grand finale coming up as the men's PTS2 category. Jules Rivstein goes through, and very early finish indeed for the Frenchman, who adds to the litany of medals that the French team have been able to take today. 1 hour and 6 minutes 30 seconds.
Thank you. Yes, it was a really good race, really good weather, not too hot, and it was a pleasure for me. I take a little bit time less in the water on Wim, and it was just a few seconds in advance, and I try to close the gap on the bike, and once I put the bike first, I know my run is good, so it will be a win.
The corks are popping, the celebrations in Swansea will continue, and a superb day of the Para Series finishes with champagne for the victors. The French team will be enjoying their ride back to France, as will all of the victors back home from Wales today. But this has been a day that all of these athletes will certainly want to drink in, although they seem to be wasting the majority of the drink that they have. Got to say that the Volvo World Triathlon Para Series Swansea 2022 is complete. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable day of action from the south coast of Wales. A huge thank you to Johnny Rauch down there, getting all of the interviews and working his socks off down at the transition area as well. A big thank you to Helen Jenkins for joining me here in the commentary booth. I know you've enjoyed it as well. And a big thank you to everybody else who's tuned in, who's worked on the broadcast. And a huge congratulations to all of the athletes that competed today, especially those that stood on top of the podium. And we will be back for the World Championships in Abu Dhabi in November. For now, goodbye.